Hi, everyone. Thank you for your interest in the 2019 Annual General Meeting, or AGM. My name is Lauren McGowan, and I'm the Events Associate here at Amnesty International USA. So the 2019 AGM will be held at Fairmont Chicago Millennium Park in Chicago, Illinois, from Friday, March 1st through Sunday, March 3rd, 2019. So the purpose of this video is threefold. Today we're going to be covering the AGM program application. We'll be reviewing the submission criteria, as well as taking a look at the overall timeline. So if after watching this video you still have some unanswered questions, please feel free to shoot us an email at eventsupport@aiusa.org. So again, that's eventsupport@aiusa.org. And we would be more than happy to assist you. All right, so with that, we're going to dive right in. I'm going to screen share. Okay, all right. So the first thing to note is that all the information that I'm going to cover today can be found on the AGM website. So we're going to www.amnestyusa.org/AGM. Great. We're going to scroll down here. You can see we're on the agenda tab. And the first thing to note, and this is very important to note, is that the deadline to submit your program session application is Monday, October 22nd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. There are no exceptions to this deadline, so it's super important. But please make sure that you submit your application prior to this date. All right, so we're going to scroll down, and before we dive into the actual application itself, I'd like to first take a look at this document together. So this doc is the Program Session Submission and Criteria Guide. And before you submit your application, we suggest that you please first review this Program Session Submission and Criteria Guide. It's meant to offer some clarity around that selection criteria, the timeline, the process, and it's really supposed to serve as the guiding document for all of us when we put together our program sessions. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. All right, I'm going to zoom in. Great. Okay, so this is the Program Session Submission and Criteria Guide. It gives you just some information at the top here about what you're going to find in this document. Here's our email again, should you have any questions. I'm going to scroll down. So the first thing here, you'll see that we highlight the overall selection criteria. So I know we've had lots of questions around what are we actually looking for in sessions, right? And so this document is really supposed to help guide all of us when we're putting together our program sessions. And so in this first part here, the overall selection criteria, this first part highlights what the campaign and program areas are. So for all sessions, they need to include some participatory ways of building the knowledge, the skills, the tools that our members are going to use to go out and make a difference in human rights. And so here you can see all of our campaign and program areas. And then we also highlight down here that it's also important that, while it's important that it reflects one of these campaign and program areas, it should also be complementing at least one of the key areas in our organizational development goals, which can all be found here. And the reason for this overall selection criteria is really that we want to be strategic with what sessions we're hosting at AGM, right? We want to make sure that all of the sessions are creating the biggest impact that they can and helping to move our work forward as an organization and as a movement. Scroll down here, we have some helpful tips for things that you can consider that are best practices when you are proposing a learning session. So things like planning an agenda, making sure that you're involving IDEA, which is inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility in your presentations. And then some information about learning styles and some other tags and tidbits that you might find helpful as you are thinking through what your session is going to look like. I'm going to scroll down. Great. Okay, so this section outlines the selection process. And this year, I'm very excited for. We're doing things a little bit differently, and to enhance that shared leadership model that we have as an organization, we've made some changes, and those changes we'll see reflected in the timeline, and we'll go through that together. But while we're here, let me just highlight it, that this year, once the session form has closed, there's going to be an online polling system via our AIUSA Member Center, where dues-paying members will be allowed to vote based on titles and descriptions, and you'll be able to decide which sessions you feel will best move our work forward. And then following that, those results are going to be shared with the AGM Programming Committee, and you can see what that group is going to consist of right here. And then from that, they will vote and decide on what the agenda will look like for AGM 2019. And I know this is a little new for folks, since this is just this year. This is a new process for us all. And so I'll cover it down here as well when we go over this timeline together. All right, so you can see here again that deadline for when you can submit your session is listed. And here's our email as well, should you have any questions. Okay, so in terms of timeline, the program session application launched in mid-August, and it'll remain open until the deadline. Once the application has closed, that voting form that I mentioned before will open on the Member Center, and it'll be open for 1.5 weeks. And that's where each member will be given the chance to vote once per day on the sessions that they would like to see at the 2019 AGM. And then in early November, the voting form will close, and those results will be passed to the AGM Programming Committee for review. And again, that information on what is this program committee, who's involved in this program committee, all of that can be found right here. And again, should you have questions, this is our email. Please feel free to reach out. All right, so then by December, the sessions are going to be publicized on the AGM website. And then from January through February, all session logistics will be finalized. This is the part that I live for as the event planner. I'm all about the logistics. And then of course, we have AGM itself on March 1st through 3rd, 2019. Okay, so I know I kind of ran through that a little quick, but have no fear, for this document is listed on the AGM website. And before I move on, I just want to scroll down a little bit more and just highlight this part of the program session submission and criteria guide as well, because it has some very, very useful information about what happens next. So your session has been selected, congratulations, what's the next step, what's going to happen after? And so you can find down here what your role is as a session organizer, what your roles and your responsibilities are should your session be selected. And so just noting that if your session is selected, you will be hearing from us, from the events team. We'll be shooting you an email, and we'll be working really closely with you to make sure that you have all the things that you need in order to make your session a success. And down here, we've also listed the different types of participants and what you will receive for your participation in the program session. So I know there's been some confusion about what is a session organizer compared to a moderator, compared to a speaker. So we've outlined that all here. You can see your session organizer. You're the person that's making sure that the content fits within your time frame. You're making sure that your session is essentially happening, right? You're responsible for booking and paying your own travel, your own lodging expenses, but because you're making the session happen, you will receive comp registration. And then for panelists, for speakers, that we define those as subject matter experts. So those are the folks that are seated at that front of the room talking about the issues, right? And for them, they'll receive comp registration and one-night hotel stay, as well as domestic travel to and from the AGM host city. And then the last category here is your facilitators or your moderators. And that's essentially, as it says, the mediator for the panel or for the workshop. So they're just supporting the conversation. They're not necessarily the subject matter expert, though they could be. And if they are, then they become a speaker. The benefit that they receive is comp registration, and they are responsible for booking their own travel and their own lodging. So again, I know these terms can be a little confusing. So again, if you have questions, please feel free to email us here. All right. So with that, we are going to move on to the actual form. So I'm going to X out of here. Oops, if technology will permit me to. Ah, okay. All righty. So now we're back on the main website. I'm going to scroll up here to the program session application or RFP. So first, we recommend opening the PDF application, so you can actually review the full application, all the things that are going to be asked of you in this proposal. So you can see here that the PDF allows you to see what's coming next. So we'll see this together, but I just wanted to take a second to highlight this. So in terms of steps, when you actually go to fill out your program session, step number 1 is going to be reviewing that guide that we just reviewed before. Step number 2 is going to be opening up that PDF application to make sure that you're seeing all of the questions and you know ahead of time what's going to be asked. And then next, we highly recommend that you fill out your application on a Word document first. And this is in case the internet fails or Wi-Fi fails or something happens. This way you'll have a copy of all of your content. You know, there's always technical problems, right? So we want to make sure that you're not losing all of that content. And so again, we recommend that you fill it out in a Word document prior to going in and submitting your application. All right. So after you've had a chance to write down all of your answers in a Word doc, you're then ready to submit your application. So you're going to go here. Alrighty, and we're gonna review this all together. So first, step 1 of 5. Don't worry, we're gonna get through it together here. This first page just has some information overall about what AGM is. It again encourages you to please first review that program session submission and criteria guide, and it has the deadline for the request for proposal listed as well, and then our email should you have any questions. All right, so we're gonna hit next here. Great. Okay, so the first part here has some information about your session titles and your descriptions. And I'll pause here just to note that it's really important for your session and description to be and your title and your description of your session to be an accurate portrayal of what you will be doing, because this is going to be what members will be voting on. They are going to get a copy of your title and your description, and they will make a judgment of whether or not this effectively moves our work forward from that. So in your description, if you're still hammering out the details, if you're still not quite sure exactly to a T what it will look like, that's okay. We just suggest that you include everything that you think we'll be covering. And this is really your selling point, right? Like what about this session is going to make folks excited and eager to go, right? So this first page is all about that. What is it about your session that's going to make it special and really push our work forward, connect to our program area priority or campaign priority, and really rally our membership together to help advance our movement. So for now though, I'm just gonna put down test as the title of my session, and test for my description, just so we can keep it moving. But again, you should have all of this already typed out in your Word doc, so it'll just be a matter of cutting and pasting. I'll also note here for your description that it says 75 words or less. You can come down here and you'll see that it's that you have a character limit. So 600 max characters is approximately 75 words or less. You won't be able to submit more information than 600 characters. So make sure that when you are typing it out in a Word doc that you check that character limit. And you just want to make sure that none of your information is going to get cut off. All right, I'm going to just keep scrolling. I'll do this as a panel just for our test. Which campaign, program, area, priority? Again, if you're unfamiliar with these, you can refer to that program session submission and criteria guide where we have them all listed. For now, I'll do this one. And again, here, this is your selling point, right? How is this session going to move our work forward? How are we as a movement what are we going to gain from your session? Now, just put in test, 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 test. All right, we're going to keep scrolling here. So again, noting that character limit, you have 600 max characters for this session, for this question. So just make sure that you're mindful of that. I know it's a lot of information to pack into not too many characters, but we'll make it work. All right, keep scrolling. Which of AIUSA's organizational development goals does your proposed session connect to? And again, you can review all of those in that submission, in the submission guide. So I'm gonna select all of them. Great, okay. We're gonna come down here. How does your proposed session connect to AIUSA's organizational development goals that you selected above? So now in this part, and again, you can see it's 600 max characters. We need to be really, really concrete, and we need to be very specific in this section about how our proposed session is going to connect to each of these goals that I selected here. And again, we're looking for specificity, and we're looking for these responses to be concrete. So everything that you think you will be covering, how is that going to be related to each one of these goals? Now, just put in test, 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 test. All right, we're gonna keep scrolling. Who is your target audience? So you can select one here, put educators. And now before I fill out this section, I just want to show you what happens when you don't fill out a question that is required. And you can tell when sessions are required, or when a question is required, because of this little red asterisk here. So this question is required. I'm not going to fill it out, just to show you what happens. So when I try to hit next, you'll get this error message. There is a problem with your submission. Errors have been highlighted below. Uh-oh, where was our problem? Let's see. All right, so we're gonna scroll down. Okay, everything looks good, everything looks good. Oh, here it is. Okay, so it's highlighted in red, and it also says this field is required. And so that's just important to note, because I know sometimes we can just be sitting there saying, why isn't this working? Why isn't this letting me move on? So please make sure that you go back and see, did you fill out every single question that had that little red asterisk there? I know it can be kind of hard to miss. So the form is built in, so it won't let you go to the next section if you haven't filled out a field that's required. And so for now, for your learning objectives, I'm going to put in test, 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 test. And there's an example here for learning objectives as well. All right, go to the next. Great, okay, so this is the session organizer contact information page. And again, this was listed in that submission and criteria guide. You can see as a session organizer, your benefit, you get comp registration. And we'll ask that you just populate these fields. So I'll put in my name, 11111111. That's not my actual number, so please don't try to call me at that. And I'll put in my email. Great, okay, and then sample bio. Again, you can note that word limit here, 50 words or less, and then that character limit. I'm gonna put in test, 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 test. All right. Scroll down, I'm an AIUSA member, yes. Fill out if you know your member ID. Come down here, you fill out what your member leader title is. You can select more than one. This one, are you an AIUSA staff member? Please only fill that out if you are. As you can see what happens here. If I hit no, you can just go on to the next page. When I hit yes, this pops up. For now, I'll hit no. All right, I'm gonna go to the next page. So this is where you're gonna fill out information for workshop facilitators, for your moderators, and or your panelists. As you can see, we're on step 4 of 5, so we're almost there, we're almost complete. And here it outlines what what we at AIUSA define as a panelist or speaker and what we define as a facilitator or moderator. And that benefit, again, is comp registration for facilitator or moderator, and for panelist and speaker, it's comp registration and one-night hotel stay, as well as domestic travel to and from Chicago. All right, so we're going to scroll down here. I'd selected a panel way back when, so I will do that here, panelist or speaker. Just put in tests. Okay. All right, I'm gonna fill this in here. Okay, so this part. So if there's a second individual that you need to submit information for, you'll click yes, and then you'll fill out all of this. If there isn't, hit no, and then you can just hit next. So let's say that there's a second individual, I have another panelist, and you would fill out all this information as well. For time's sake, I'm not going to do that with you right now. I think you get it though. We'll scroll down again. For third individual, if there's a third person I want to submit for, I would hit yes and fill that out. If there isn't, I would just hit no. So you can see that that field only comes up when you've selected yes. For now, I'll hit no, and I'll hit next. Great. Okay, so we're on step 5 of 5. So this is the last one. We've made it through. So on this section, this is the part that me as an event planner, the part I like the most, because it goes over all the materials, the equipment, the setup, everything that you're going to need in order to make your session a success. And so this is really getting into the weeds of your audio and visual and your materials, right? So will you need a projector? Will you have audio? Are you going to be showing video? Right, all of this. So for now, I'll select those 3. For materials, you know, I want my folks to use Post-it notes. I'm a big Post-it note fan, so they're going to need pens as well. And you know, I want the session to be incredibly interactive. So I'm going to have some markers. I'll have some flip chart paper as well. And you know, I want to have some pencils just in case. So I'm going to put other, and I'll tell them down here, pencils. Okay. Great, so that's that with our audio and visual and material needs. And we're gonna scroll down. Great, okay, so this part is super important as well. So this goes over your session organizer, what your roles and your responsibilities are of the approved program sessions. So I mentioned this before that, you know, you've submitted your session, the members vote. Those votes then go to the AGM programming committee who votes on your sessions, and they've decided that your session is going to be one at the AGM 2019 AGM. So congratulations, your session has been selected. What happens next? And so this part of the form outlines what your roles and what your responsibilities are going to be as a session organizer. You will be hearing from the events team. We'll become very close friends. We'll be working very closely together on making sure that your session is successful at AGM. And so these paragraphs here outline what you receive as a session organizer, what you'll receive as a panelist, as a facilitator, and then really just highlight that your role as a session organizer is key in the success of this session. And we'll do all that we can to make sure that we keep you up to date, and you'll be our main point person. And so like I said, we'll become very close friends. All right, so we've made it through. We've made it through the form. The last thing you need to do here is hit submit. Okay, so we've done that, and you'll get this message. And so it's important to note that this is the only confirmation that you will receive. You're not going to get an email in your inbox. So if this message has not appeared, something went wrong in your application. So please make sure that you go back, that you double check, you've completed all those required sessions or required sections of the form, and that everything that you needed to fill out has been filled out. And you can see here that my email is listed as well. So should you have any questions, just please feel free to reach out via that. All right. So now I'm going to stop this video, come back to me. Hello, hello. All right, welcome back. I hope that this offered some clarity and helped to just walk through that process together of what it looks like to submit a program session application for AGM 2019. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to sit with me and go over the session form, the criteria, as well as the timeline. Please remember to submit your application prior to Monday, October 22nd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you have any lingering questions, please feel free to send us an email at eventsupport@aiusa.org. I'd be more than happy to help you out and to talk through it with you. All right, great. That's it from me. I hope to see you all in Chicago. Bye.